I don't really need to say much about my buddy C.L. Bryant and Deneen Boreli's experience at an NAACP gathering. This right here says it all.
Let's make a correction right there.
All right.
The NAACP doesn't discriminate. They don't need to be in here.
What? You seem to be bothered that they're
I
here.
am. Take me to the hospital afterwards. No, I was just joking. No, I was very sick last year. I had a blood clot. Yeah. Okay,
so
that's not my question.
Excuse
me, that's not my question. Then maybe you can answer it. I thought a woman would know how to speak and answer the question.
Well, I'm trying to talk to you, but you're not allowing me to talk.
I'll be happy to talk.
You said you're not a member of the NAACP.
I'm a former president.
So if you're not a member, I don't care what you got to say.
Maybe I have a bad case of OCD because I feel like my brain wants to ease out of my skull and crawl around on my face if I don't point out the obvious hypocrisy of this woman. Did she seriously say that the NAACP doesn't discriminate while she's discriminating against them with bulging neck vein hatred?
I think what's happening. Propaganda.
CL and Deneen attended an NAACP-hosted event, and this woman, as a member of the NAACP, is anything but gracious, but is instead a hostile host. She's full of bigotry and prejudice, and she makes charges against Freedom Works and how they exclude blacks. Meanwhile, she's talking to C.L. Bryant and Deneen Boreli, who are there on behalf of the so-called exclusionary Freedom Works. The woman's loyalty was easily bought with food stamps.
But let me tell you something. If it wasn't for food stamps or any of those things to help me when I was in poverty, to give me that helping hand to go to a manpower program and get a trade, go on to college and do whatever I needed to do, a temporary fix, I wouldn't be wealthy today.
She claims that she went from food stamps to wealth. And despite her so-called wealth, she still hasn't been liberated from her bitterness, as if she's hanging on to a food stamp with a clenched fist. This woman is a textbook example of the so-called tolerant and progressive attitude of the NAACP. Their worldview is backwards. It's funny that they call themselves progressives. Like I say, left-wingers are about as progressive as cancer. They're loyal to the Democrat Party, America's oldest hate group. And this woman is well qualified to be a representative of such hate and anger. Look at that neck, just pumping with hate. That's like vampire porn. Somewhere, Dracula and all the Twilighters are online, licking the computer screen, wanting to get to that juicy jugular.
I had a blood clot.
I wonder how she got that blood clot. I reckon it's quite possible that she blew a gasket from all that hatred she got. I bet she farts a lot. I hope she does, actually. I hope her doctor recommended that she not keep that hateful gas in her body. And for her to excuse herself often to vent her vicious vapors at a considerable distance from other folks. Because her holding in those furious left-wing fumes makes her comparable to a suicide bomber. Y'all, they're hardwired hateful and can't see how hateful they are. What do you expect from people who consider themselves progressive while doing nothing that has to do with any good progress? If you're a left-winger who's not hardwired, please consider what I'm going to repeat. This should really put things into perspective for you. Democrats justified slavery by saying the Bible says it's okay, which it doesn't. Now you have Democrats, secularists today, accusing the Bible of being pro-slavery. All you have to do is look at many of the Democrats today, because they provide you proof of what Democrats were like when their party was founded. And such proof includes seeing the Bible as pro-slavery. They saw it that way to justify slavery then. They see it that way now so as to use it to stigmatize Christians. The bottom line is that they use the Bible for wrongful purposes. The Democrats justified slavery by saying the Constitution said slavery is okay, which it doesn't. Now Democrats today still see it that way to stoke anger in the black community to keep them loyal to them. The fact that most of the Democrat Party charges the Bible and the Constitution as pro-slavery today is evidence that they wrongfully used these documents then and now for wrongful reasons, Leave it to Democrats to lead people to believe that blacks are 3/5 of a human being. They use such arguments to keep slaves by insisting that they're not human, when the 3/5 clause doesn't say anything about blacks. Here's what the infamous 3/5 clause says. Excluding Indians, not tax 3/5 of all other persons. There is your 3/5 clause. It ain't got a flippin' thing to do with black folks. What it was concerned with was states trying to count citizens of tribal nations residing in their states. You can't just go around counting any Indian belonging to another tribal nation that you want to for your census for representation. There had to be a criteria. If you want to count that Indian had to be paying at least 3/5 the taxes that all other persons were taxed. That's the 3/5 clause in the Constitution. Now, I know I'm going to get emails and comments telling me, well, actually, Zoe, the 3/5 compromise came about during the Constitutional Convention. Yeah, whatever. I'm sorry. I just have this really nasty habit of looking at exactly what the Constitution is saying right here. Which makes a whole lot of sense because it prevents the illegal counting of people who aren't U.S. citizens for representation, which the pro-slavery patriarchs of the Democrat Party wanted. Pro-slavery representation. And here it is today, Democrats who are in full favor of people coming over illegally so they can gather people who aren't U.S. citizens for their representation. Democrats don't change. Their tactics do. Their objective doesn't. They are a party of control, and they use hatred to control people. At one time, they used hateful whips to control people. Now they use food stamps to control people, like they did with this woman. And those food stamps serve more so to buy her a diet of bitterness. And the Democrats use that. And the NAACP is one of the Democrat Party's propaganda arms to keep American blacks under Democrat control. I applaud CL and Deneen for taking the arrows and remaining gracious in the face of such backward thinking and hostility. My final ratio was Zonation, and let me leave you with this irony. Liberals like the one who attacked CL and Deneen tell them that they are not welcome and discriminate against them, and do whatever they can to make sure Republicans have no presence in their community. These are the same ones who accuse Republicans of ignoring the black community. They accuse Republicans for the problems in the black community while they give Democrats the power in their communities. The Democrats use that power to arrest the development in their communities, and then they blame Republicans. It's frustrating, I know, but if a knucklehead like me can get it, I reckon there's got to be hope for others. I bet she farts a lot.